Hey guys, Jason Lanier here, and I'm going to tell you why the Sony A7 IV is the first camera that I will purchase in 3 or 4 years. As a longtime Sony shooter, one of the first to adopt the Sony mirrorless system, I'm familiar with all the Sony cameras, and I've shot all of them. But ever since I've had the A9 and the A7 III, to be honest, with all of Sony's new offerings, while some of them are very tempting, I haven't had the need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a new camera. The A7R IV produces beautiful files, but I didn't need 60 plus megapixels and I didn't like the focus on that camera. The A9 II came out and that was not much of an improvement from an image quality perspective over the A9, so I didn't need to upgrade. The A7S III is a beautiful camera for filming. I'm filming on the A7S III and this is a 50th of a second f1.8 ISO 256,000. And I still might pull the trigger on that one, but I haven't yet. The A7C, cool camera, don't need it. But the A7 IV, that's a cool freaking camera. And I'm excited to tell you guys why it's gonna be the next one that I'll be shooting with. Sony pitched this camera as a hybrid camera, something that would please both filmmakers and still photographers alike. Well, that describes exactly me. I mean, I do documentaries, I do fashion shoots, I do commercial shoots. Occasionally, every once in a blue moon, I'll do a wedding still. But the bottom line is, I use my cameras for a lot of different purposes. I'll use them for YouTube videos, stuff like that. As we speak, I'm filming on the Sony A7 III. I just wrapped up shoots in London last week, did an Old West shoot with the A9. That camera still produces incredible results. When Sony came out with the A7 III, they knew it was going to cannibalize a lot of their A9 market because the A7 III was a mini A9. Well, in my opinion, the A7 IV is a mini A1, and it's perfect for me and I think for a lot of other photographers out there. Here's why. 33 megapixels, freaking perfect. I love the fact that we have a camera that is in the 30 megapixel range. Again, I love the 42 megapixels out of my A7R III, but you know, sometimes you just don't need that much, especially if you're a high volume shooter. 24 is great, but sometimes you want just a little bit more, a little bit more resolution, and that's where that 33 megapixels in an A7 IV will come in very, very handy. So what Sony did is they took pretty much the scaled down best versions of the A7S III and the A1 and jammed it in the A7 IV, which I think is fantastic. I love the screen. I love the fact that we have a screen we can finally flip around and look at. That's so frustrating as somebody who films themselves a lot via documentaries, via videos like this. It's very frustrating. You don't know if what the levels are. You don't know if your mic cuts. You don't know many different things when you're filming yourself that you want to be able to see. The other thing I love about this camera is that it's really upping its game for live stream functionality. I just did a live stream in London. 1, 2, 3. Lean towards the light for me. That is ridiculous. So having something like the A7 IV would be perfect for something like that.
The adoption of the latest Beyond's XR engine, developed on the flagship model, the Alpha 1.
Because of that processor, it has a better buffer. And again, that's going to be super helpful for when you use those 10 frames per second that the A7 IV offers. And it does it apparently in either mechanical or in electronic shutter. For most people, guys, 10 frames per second is a lot. I know like in the A1, we get wrapped up in these huge frames per second, 20, 30 frames per second. Unless you have very specific needs, you don't really need more than 10 frames per second. I also love the fact that they made it easier to go from stills to movies to the S&Q, the slow and quick mode on the camera. In regards to autofocus, they went after the wildlife market, birding market, birders, with their enhanced eye autofocus for birds in both stills and in video mode. Real-time eye autofocus for animals, dogs, stuff like that, and for human beings. And apparently the eye autofocus is supposed to be improved for human beings. There's also supposed to be better autofocus in low light conditions. And believe me, I'm gonna test all of this. I love the focus mapping they provide on this camera to be able to help you get better rack focus if you're somebody who's doing a lot of filming with your camera. I also love the fact that if you adjust the focus ring, you can go from a manual to an autofocus with your lens. That would definitely have some functionality for still photographers, but would have a lot of functionality for filmmakers. I love the 15 stops of dynamic range. You want to be able to pull out as much detail as you can from your shadows, not only from low light conditions as a still photographer, but low light conditions as a filmmaker. I love the fact that it has Cinetone. I am a fan of Cinetone. I think it looks really nice. If you don't want to do a lot of color grading to your footage, and when I tested that with the A7S III, the FX3, so on and so forth, I really do like the Cinetone. Has a touchscreen, which is nice. Something that's really cool is that they have added some elements to the camera to help with heat dissipation. If you've used a Sony camera over the years, they will overheat. I know that when they came out with the A1, the A7S III, they really did things to try and dissipate the heat. And apparently this has resulted in the camera having no recording limit. Now I'm curious to see if that's really the fact, but you know, on their press release they said more than an hour. Again, I don't know how often you're going to film for more than an hour, but still, it's really nice to be able to have that. In regards to the 4K capabilities, internal recording, it does 4K at 60p, which is nice. It does 120 at 1080p. With the 4K, they do a 7K oversampling, so the 4K footage is supposed to look better. That's what it means. And they've done the recording at 10-bit 422. So again, if you're a hybrid shooter out there, if you're a filmmaker, this camera has crossover capabilities. This is like the SUV of cameras, is really what this is. It provides a lot of functionality, and at the price of $2,500, it's really well priced. I definitely believe this is a significant upgrade over the A7 III. I even love the recording button. I love that they brought that over from the A7S III. The body's the same as pretty much the A7S III. You know, the dual card slots, all that stuff, in-body image stabilization, all the stuff we've come to expect from Sony. We don't need to talk about the stuff all of us know that Sony's already do. But Sony has always led the way with their focus system. It's what's always attracted me most to Sony cameras. The fact that they're adding enhancements to their autofocus system is only another reason for me to be even more excited about the A7 IV. The A7 III is one of the best-selling cameras ever, and I think the A7 IV is going to be up there as well. I think over the last couple years, they've kind of hit a wall, because it's like, how much more can we get people to purchase when we already have market penetration? Once you become the leader, there's only so many people that want to switch over. But I think the A7 IV is going to be a good one for them. I really do. Completely would dub it a Mini A1. For most people, and I said this in my review of the A1, most people don't need an A1 for their everyday purposes. It's overkill. So A1 was a freaking flex by Sony, and they flexed, and it's an awesome camera. The A7 IV, however, is a camera that a lot of people, a lot of photographers could need and use. And I think that that's where the appeal of this camera really comes into play. The A7 1, 2, 3, 4 lineup of Sony cameras, this particular lineup of Sony is meant to hit the meat of the market. And Sony had no choice. I mean, Nikon and Canon are really upping their games. As a result, I think the A7 IV comes along at a good time. Hopefully they won't have too many supply chain issues, because we all know it's tough to get gear these days because of all the supply chain issues that have been going on around the world, thanks to a myriad of reasons. This camera feels different to me. It feels like it's at the right price point. I could imagine owning 2 or 3 of these to film with, to shoot with, to do all the different things that I do with it. And the fact that they're appealing to a hybrid market, I think is very, very important, because there's so many people out there like me who are hybrid shooters. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you anticipate getting an A7 IV? Did it fill the boxes that you need, or did it miss? What do you guys think? Let me know. Let's have a discussion down below, and I'll do my best to reply to your comments. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. I love you guys. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Share this video out there with someone that you care about, from somebody like me who's been shooting Sony mirrorless more and longer than anybody. So I love you guys. Until next time, keep shooting, never give up on your dreams. Find a gear that works for you, and remember, you only have one chance to get it right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.